again, did not start with this model. I went to university in 1987 as a fresher. And I had a loan, just like you do. I paid my loan. My loan was 55,000. There was an interest of 2%. The statistics are there with the Higher Education Loans Board.
Welcome back to Havana Media. My name is Boniface Owino, and as usual, I'm going to be your host for today. Yesterday, William Samoei Ruto met with the university students leaders and some of the university students, not leaders, but now yesterday, William Ruto met with some of the university leaders and students too. And there is a statement that he said. You know, I told you, I said something here that I said something one day here, that days will go by, that as time goes by, the lies of William Ruto will continue to be strong, will continue to be modified day by day. But you must know something. William Ruto must know that the people that he's dealing with are not stupid. The people that he keeps on lying to are not stupid. These guys are learned. They can do investigation. They can do their thorough research until they get to the bottom of the truth. William Ruto said something that he joined university in 1985, which is right. Then after joining university in 1985, William Ruto claimed that he paid his school fees using loan. That is the HELB. Now, for those who went to university, for those who used HELB in university, you can confirm with me this, that the HELB loan was brought into universities or in higher education in 1995. That is 10 years. That is 10 years after William Ruto had joined university. So you can't tell me that William Ruto spent 10 years in university and which allowed him to use the loan. Ruto joined university in 1985 and then graduated in 1990. So it means that William Ruto took only 5 years in university. Then he's claiming that he used the HELB loan, and he's saying that he understands the current situation and the current situation that the university students are going through.
Again, did not start with this model. I went to university in 1987 as a fresher. And I had a loan, just like you do. I paid my loan. My loan was 55,000. There was an interest of 2%. The statistics are there with the Higher Education Loans Board. I paid my loan facility with an interest, so I paid 69,000. In fact, I paid my loan when I got my first salaried job as a member of parliament.
Now, in as much as William Ruto is saying all this, that he used the HELB loan, there are some of the two interesting student leaders here that I'm very happy with. I want you to listen to them. Number one, there is this SG of JKUAT by the name of Kennedy. Kennedy is telling the president that I've been privileged to serve, or I've been privileged to be 2 occasions under your leadership. Number one, when you were the MP. When you were the MP, I was a pupil one of the schools where you were in your area, and I was very happy when you were an MP. And he's saying this, that during the time that you are an MP, people used to celebrate your performance, your good work. And you know, William Ruto was laughing, thinking that maybe he was going to be praised. Little did he know that this guy was coming to drop a bombshell. This guy was coming to do the Lord's work by telling him that now you are the president. And maybe I thought that this is the time that people should celebrate your good work. But now you find that what you're doing is worse than what you're doing as an MP. And right now, instead of people celebrating your good work, people are going to demonstrate your bad governance.
First thing first, Mr. President, I've been privileged to be under your administration in 2 capacities. One, I enjoyed your administration when you were an MP in Eldoret North.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, we used to learn hapo Kamagut hapo chini karibu na kwenu. Yes. And secondly, I've also experienced your leadership now that you are the president. Mr. President, I can assure you they are totally different. From when you were MP, people used to go to the street to celebrate your achievements. Nowadays, we just go to the streets to demonstrate. And Mr. President, don't get me wrong in the first place. The reason is why I know when you are the president, it comes with a lot of responsibility and people to advise. And I will start off by saying those who advised in this new funding model, I will not be wrong to say there is a problem. And that's why we are here. We have to go back to the drawing board. We have to start off afresh. And my question is, Mr. President, the first question is, what was so wrong with the old funding model that we could not sit down and amend it? Because even a constitution of a country, you just don't wake up one day and bring a new constitution. We always go and say, hii clause imetufinya kidogo kama wananchi. We go to the parliament, they amend it, and they take it to the president to ascend and sign it. So I feel we should go back to the old funding model and amend it, because Mr. President, we don't lack stakeholders, we don't lack resources. These people sitting here, watu wanafanya law, nursing, medicine, there are brains here which can sit down in those panel and say, where did we go wrong? Comrades, kama SG we ndio mtu wa mkono. I have my president here, Masai Chebet. Comrades come to you and tell you, Kisero, we have been placed in this band, and people are really suffering, Mr. President. And my question is, why then do COOPs have to place them in private university if they can't be sustained the same way as those in public university? And in that regard, Mr. President, I acknowledge that you have said the government, kidogo tu, this is my chance with the Mr. President. You have acknowledged that the government said it has debts, and my university is one that is in the same category. Tunadai the government. They have been so lenient enough to allow students to learn with the limited resources they have. Tunaomba tu hata kidogo ndio university iendelee kufanya kazi, because we need to learn, those who we are there in Kemu. Then Mr. President, recently you were awarded a beautiful degree at Baraton University, if I'm not wrong. Honorary. Yes. Degree at Baraton University. And there was one picture that really took my attention. I know most of you saw the picture. There was a little girl called Naomi who was in the midst of graduates, and he was there admiring all the graduates, the beautiful gown. Then I asked myself, why does this new funding model want to kill the dream of that young girl of one day graduating?
In another occasion, there is also another student who is an SG also in one of the universities. He is telling William Ruto that what was it with the rush, and why is it that you can't just decide to change things the way they are supposed to work? I said something here that a time is coming that William Ruto will be in a trap that it will be very difficult for him to get out of that trap. And now the trap is here that the university students are coming out, speaking their mind. And this guy is telling William Ruto that, mark my words, and you have to understand that we don't have any leader. We don't have anybody that is representing us, unless maybe you want to build for us an office as the university student leadership, so that any moment we have a problem, we can take all our problems to that office, because that is the only way we know that our problems can be heard and they can be handled in a proper way that we need. And there is also another thing that he says. He's telling the president that I think there is something that is missing. There is a very big problem. And this problem is that two people are wrong. The problem, we have got two problems. And that first problem is you. And it's high time you leave office or change your tactics of handling the problem.
Secretary General, and Mr. President, for the entire time I was sitting on this seat, it was becoming hotter and hotter, for the simple reason that by every minute I'm receiving phone calls, because before I came here, I engaged my people from JKUAT, and they told me if I did not tell you the truth, they would impeach me. So allow me to be as candid with you as possible. Mr. President, my first question, and one of the biggest questions my people have been asking me, is why the rush? Why the rush in implementing a model that has a lot of technicalities? Why the rush? Because I am a financial engineer, and as you have said, the issue of the interest rates is determined by actuarial scientists. But the model in itself has a lot of issues up to this moment. So even if we had all these issues coupled together, you've given a lot of sad stories of people not making it to campuses such as the Scott Bible Institute being closed. But Mr. President, we have a lot of people being affected right now. While we were at Naivasha, Mr. President, once we left, we felt like rubber stamps. Naongea ukweli, comrades. For the simple reason that after that, a report was given in Naivasha. We had a summit in Naivasha around June. And the report that came out is that we had agreed to the model. And our comrades were really angry with us, Mr. President. So we felt at that point like we were being set up. Like what we are telling the people is just for formalities. And we have spoken in a lot of forums, Mr. President, but I believe you have already noticed that people are not clapping much to even the best of points, because there's a general tiresome. There's a general exhaustion among the people, because we are usually given a lot of promises. We will come to forums such as this, but we know that very little of it will be implemented. And Mr. President, we also know that corruption is the biggest public expenditure. And before you came into office, there were people you came into office with who had corruption scandals. But once they got into office, they became suddenly people of integrity. And Mr. President, in as much as we are discussing education, we know that the help decries of you've even told us, and it's also something I take issue with. While we were with you at State House, you told us that the debt was around 70 billion, or there was a time you told us 70 billion. A time came you told us private universities have 51 billion. And today you said 180 billion. And as a financial engineer, I'm finding it a little bit hard to reconcile all these figures, Mr. President. So you could also state it a bit more clearly over that. But the HELB and the PS of Education has told us severally that the public institutions had debts and all such kinds of stuff. But we have seen exposés on Twitter, exposés by the Auditor General, telling us that a chair somewhere cost 3.3 million, Mr. President. I will not rush to criticize anything of the sort, but you know that corruption is a big expenditure in this country. What is your administration doing to ensure that corruption ends in public institutions? Mr. President, you are using 9 beaters to classify people. Once again, I'm a financial engineer and I take keen interest in numbers. You use 9 factors to classify people. Now explain this to me. We have a parent earning 25,000 shillings. And the firstborn has made it to JKUAT to do financial engineering. But this family has 7 people. It has 6 siblings under the person who has made it to financial engineering. So, under what category does this person fall? Let's even say it's 50,000. This person lives in the CBD at a place where the life is very expensive. So under what category does this person fall? Or will we have the same thing repeating itself of that girl who was looking at the people with graduation gowns? Because the firstborn, yes, made it to campus and they found the new funding model and they appealed because they were placed in band 5. But unfortunately, as you've heard, we have, let me confirm the numbers. We have 26,000 appeals. And also as a financial engineer, I know that not all appeals usually go through as they ought to because of the system glitches. Mr. President, kindly explain to me where this person should land, because among the 9 beaters, the issue of the siblings and probably the dependents around that family, because some of these families adopt people not because they have too much, but because they have compassion on the people in the society who the government is unable or unwilling to help. Mr. President, we also have the issue of a defunct KUSO. And Mr. President, I love what the gentleman who has spoken in Swahili. I must first commend him because of the perfect grammar. Of the issue of, I do not know if you know anyone who represents other campus students. Because, comrades, do you know anyone who represents you? Do you have anyone? So, Mr. President, I would like to urge you to probably constitute something that will even be recognized by the government, because as students we have been crying, as student leaders we have been crying for a very long time of people who are there to just by themselves cast, Mr. President, people who are there not to represent our will, but their own, people who are there for their own stomachs. And these are the people who you are striking against. Mr. President, people in this room are angry because of 2 people. One, it is you. I've told you I'll be impeached if I do not tell you the truth. My constituents told me that they feel, and I will put this as respectfully as possible, that you advise your advisors. Because of the issues, for example, let's say the issue of the new funding model. Mr. President, the only person who has explained the new funding model in the best way is you. So my constituents were asking me, as in, shouldn't the people in charge of that ministry be able to put it better than the president himself? The other person that the comrades are very angry with is in this room, seated somewhere in front, Mr. President. Somebody who has been claiming to represent our interests. But, comrades, does that person represent your interests? Does that person represent your interests? So, Mr. President, if anyone comes to you claiming, Mr. President, the comrades are telling me to tell him to walk out, but we are here for peace, Mr. President. So I would want to put it as straight as possible and to be as brief as a cock on a hen. Mr. President, as things stand, we do not have a representative. Ukweli ama uongo? We do not have a representative unless you enable us have some permanent office to ensure that student leaders are represented, and you ensure that unlike the many government offices we have today, the government will not interfere with the affairs of the students. Mr. President, the lady there has raised an important issue. First, the questions that are here, most of them have been raised by the people around me because they've realized that you might not have a lot of time to speak. Somebody named Karongo Adangwa, the senator of Kiambu County, and by the way, God willing, I will replace him, raised the point of all these monies being brought to one pool. The MC has a bursary, the woman rep has a bursary. Probably if it was not for a very little chance, the chief might be having a bursary. Mr. President, the entire structure that represents us, and by the way, we also feel overrepresented as Kenyans, and that is one of the reasons we are demonstrating, Mr. President. We have 22 CSS, we have CASs, we have permanent secretaries, and all these people have budgets and they have salaries, but I'll put that aside, Mr. President. So these people have bursaries. And then to get a bursary, you must know somebody in the country that we live in. You've said that you feel for the poor.
That is all I had for today. And just a reminder, if you're meeting for the first time, please don't forget to click the subscribe button. You can also like, share, and drop me a comment and tell me what you think and where you're watching us from. As I normally say, that feedback is normally the key thing in any form of communication, and not fail to appreciate those who have been giving us your support, because without your support, this channel cannot grow and it cannot be where it is as now. Until we meet again, I've been your host, Boniface Owino. Bye-bye.